Hey everyone! So yesterday I didn't get a chance to do my meal prepping like I wanted to. I had in for my plans that I was going to do a meatloaf, and this is the meatloaf recipe I've actually been using for a few years now. I love meal prepping it. It's absolutely delicious. It has really healthy ingredients, and like I've never had a meatloaf better than this. So I'm going to share that with you today. Alright, so I'm going to start by putting some of the meat in first. I'm going to be using 2 pounds, but I have just this basic regular, this one is 85%. And then I actually had this in the freezer that I thawed out. This was from Niagara Produce. They call it a meatloaf mix. It's beef, pork, and veal all ground together, so it's a pound. I had it in the freezer, I wanted to use it up. So I'm going to tear all this apart and get it all in the pan. So 2 pounds, I'm using a loaf pan that looks like this. It's a little bit deeper, so it actually can handle a lot more meat. We'll call that meat. So that'll be good for quantities, especially if you have to share. And right now I have my oven preheated to 325, especially with the deep pan in there. Not a bad idea. Like the styrofoam thing's better. Awesome. Look at me struggle. I can't use scissors. I'm such so bad with scissors. Alright. Maybe this will work better. Yeah, that's awesome. Wash my hands afterwards. I like these to look really real. I don't like to edit out clumsiness. I mean, after all, we're all real humans here, right? Might as well watch me struggle too, with my lack of scissors ability. Even for being left-handed, right? Okay. Okay. In you go. Perfect. Quick little hand wash. I'm going to be handling a lot of things. Okay. Alright, so now that I have my meat in there, my multiple types of meat, I'm going to stick in just 1 egg. That's all you need. The egg and 1 other ingredient are going to be your binding agents. So just 1 egg, 1 large egg. The other ingredient I'm going to save for last because I'm going to talk about it. Alright, next I'm going to put in all of my various flavor things. And I've selected all these on purpose. They're usually the things that I put in, but they're also things that add flavor without adding calories. Super, super important. And obviously this is what's going to make for a delicious meatloaf. I don't have to add bacon, I don't have to add cheese, I don't even have to add breadcrumbs for this. So this is basically what I'm going to be sticking with for this recipe. First thing, of course, garlic powder. I put garlic powder in pretty much everything, and you know what I'm going to do? I have that much garlic powder in there, and I'm actually just going to drain it. I like my stuff to be kind of garlic heavy. And this probably equates to about almost a tablespoon, and that's fine for me. And this is actually our small garlic container. We have a very large one in the pantry that I'm just going to use to refill that, so I'll put that off to the side. This is minced onion. I don't mind using minced onion. They're going to be rehydrated in the oven, which is now preheated. Onion powder works just as well. I usually stick with about a teaspoon's worth, sometimes a little bit more depending on how I'm feeling. Teaspoon. So I'm just going to put in about a teaspoon, a leveled off teaspoon of minced onion. It's also a lot faster than cutting an onion, and like I'm not very resilient when it comes to cutting an onion. I tend to be like a big mess, and my tears will be in the onion, so ways around that are better. I've also used frozen chopped onion too. I believe Wegmans sells it in their frozen vegetable area. That's not bad either. You just kind of throw in how much you want, maybe about a 1/4 of a cup to 1/2 a cup. You know, it just kind of depends on how much onion you want it to be. That's one of those ingredients where you can be flexible. Alright, next. This is a really interesting ingredient that I want to share with you today. This is called light salt. Alright, So especially if you've been told by a doctor, oh, you should be cutting back on your salts. Maybe your cholesterol is high or could be high, or you've got a genetic predisposition to have high cholesterol. This is a really good ingredient to consider. So basically it's got 50% less sodium than table salt. Tastes just like salt, acts just like salt, you can cook with it. But what's crazy about it is that, it contains salt, potassium chloride, potassium, calcium silicate, magnesium carbonate, dextrose, potassium iodide. Okay, so that's the chemical list of what's in there. But what's interesting about it is that for every quarter teaspoon of light salt, you actually get 10% of your daily needs of potassium. This is one of those ingredients that you can just seamlessly add into your diet and substitute in for regular salt, and it's going to keep your salt intake lower, but it's going to help you maintain better levels of potassium, especially if you're among the population that could definitely use some. So I'm going to be using some of this instead of regular salt. I don't think I really want a full teaspoon. I think I'm going to go with half a teaspoon. So this happens to be a quarter teaspoon. I'm just going to put in 2 of these. Okay, it's 1. Yeah, I'm being sloppy about it, but salt, yeah, it should be alright. First one was a little low. Okay, so that was light salt. Should be in baking aisles. Alright. Okay, next thing. We're going to go with this one. This is liquid smoke. I love this ingredient. This ingredient is so much fun to add. No calories at all, and it basically works like a soy sauce container, so you just kind of let it spit its way in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that's probably going to be enough for your meatloaf. Another ingredient that adds flavor and no calories would be Worcestershire sauce. And actually, this container is getting low, so hopefully I have enough for what I want to do. I'm going to add about the same amount, maybe about 6 or 7 squirts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. All right, and then I have sauces. These are fun. So this is Walden Farms ketchup. I think I've talked about it before in either a blog post or another video. But yeah, this is ketchup. It tastes like ketchup. Actually, I think it has extra tang, like a little bit more tang and flavor than regular ketchup. But here, hopefully this doesn't flip backwards. This says 0 calories. They sell this at Tops. And I don't usually add a whole ton of ketchup, but I was like, you know what? I could like that extra little tang. I don't want to use too much. I want to keep a little bit aside for camping in a couple weeks. Okay, so I just added a little bit. I angled the camera today so you could see what I was putting in here. So, all right. And then this ingredient's really important. This is sugar-free barbecue sauce. It's by that line called G. Hughes. Okay, and it's sugar-free. Tastes super good. I mean, there's people that are real true to life barbecue sauce aficionados out there. Maybe they would have something to complain about it, but we're mixing it into a meatloaf. It's just a flavor enhancer. For every 2 tablespoons that are in this, 10 calories. So unless you plan on coating your piece of meatloaf afterwards, it's going to add 2 calories to your entire dish. Really, the calories that you're going to get from this are mainly from just the beef, the magic ingredient I haven't told you yet, and the egg. That's it. So if tracking your food, every good weight loss person should, you really only have to track a few ingredients because the rest don't add any calories. So I'm going to add in probably what will equate to about 1/4 of a cup. Okay. This will add some additional moisture in there, and that's probably enough. All right. Get this one out of the way. Okay. This is the magic ingredient I was talking about. Meatloaves need something that's an additional binding agent. A lot of people tend to use breadcrumbs or seasoned breadcrumbs or panko crumbs, which that's definitely how I used to make my meatloaf also. But this is actually something different that works just as well and actually adds an extra flavor. Breadcrumbs are pretty bland unless you get the seasoned ones, which are really high in salt. These are, what I do, I did ground flaxseed. You can also get it whole and a much more coarse grain, or flax meal. This is a brand new bag. I haven't opened this one, but they pretty much work the same way. It's just a difference in texture. So for every 2 tablespoons is 80 calories, but again, you're not going to be putting too much in here. We're going to go for about 1/4 of a cup. So let me grab that real quick. Okay, so let's get this sucker Ooh, it smells so good. It has kind of like a nutty type of scent to it. Okay, and it comes out kind of looking like brown sugar. This one is more finely ground than what I'm usually used to getting. And I'll just stick that right in. And that will help everything stick together, just like you would expect for like your breadcrumbs. Alright, so now I'm actually going to grease my pan. This is the only ingredient I'm using that I'm not as proud about. I only use shortening for like a few things, but like I really don't want it to stick. So I use a like a sandwich baggie just to rub it in. This is the best technique because there's no mess at all. That way I can get into the corners, get all the way up the sides because it's going to be a big meatloaf when we're done. And then I just turn it inside out and I don't get grease anywhere. Cool little trick my mom taught me when I was little. Okay, so now I'm just going to mix this. And here's the boring part of the video while I mix stuff. It may not be boring if I start making a mess. I mean, there's always that possibility too. Okay. I have also experimented with this recipe using extra egg, but I usually start with one, and if it seems like everything's not coming together the way I want to, then I may use like a second egg, but usually I find that after I do enough mixing, I don't really have to. And basically I'll just end up putting this right into the pan, patting it down, leveling it out. That's really all it's going to be. Yeah, this is coming together pretty well. Yep, I'm only going to need the one egg. It is delicious. The only complaint I sometimes have is that depending on the fat content of the meat, which this wasn't like super lean, sometimes you can get the grease that pools around the edges. I mean, it's going to be a really, really good tasting, juicy meatloaf afterwards, but I tend to just drain some of that out before I let it cool, and before I serve it, certainly, because like that's really greasy and kind of gross. But at least you know that extra grease is baked off. It's now going to be less fat that you're going to be ingesting. So that's kind of nice. Fewer calories, all that good stuff. Let's say we're pretty much almost done here. All right. Okay, let's see how it goes. Couple little scraps there. That 2 pounds kind of doesn't look like it went far, but like I said, this is a big pan for a loaf pan. So how do you know it's done? Well, I love using one of those digital meat thermometers. I use that to double check. A lot of times I will just poke it and maybe like put a little slice in there just to check how it looks in the center. And look for it to be pretty much not pink anymore. Alright. I think we're going to be pretty good here. Just making sure we come out to the corners. Alright, and in it goes. Alright, and I'm going to set it for, I guess I'm going to start with maybe 50 minutes. I have it on 325, so it's going to cook a little slower. Again, that's to help retain the moisture. So I'm going to start with 50 minutes and then I'll end up checking it. So there we go. Alright, so however long this video ends up taking, that's how long it takes to prep this meatloaf, which can definitely be enough meals for you for like almost a full work week. Depends on how many people you have to share it with. Super, super easy. One of the techniques I'm hoping that you pick up from this is what ingredients to pick that are not going to add in calories, but are going to give you a lot of flavor. Some different options as to how to substitute to make your favorite recipe just as enjoyable but a lot more healthy, and to not be afraid to not always measure things, okay? I've made this several times, I think, over the years, and like I know what I like with it, but like what if you wanted less garlic? Well, then put in less garlic. You know, every recipe that you might follow and follow to a T is somebody's interpretation of what kind of flavors they like and what their preferred flavor profiles are. So, you know, getting in touch and experimenting, being willing to experiment, being willing to accidentally fail. But when you fail, you learn something about what not to do when seasoning something. So, like, be willing and open to do that. It is kind of fun to experiment, and you end up learning so much along the way, even if there's a couple flops in there. All right, so any questions, please reach out, and hopefully at some point you'll get a chance to try this. It's really good. All right, enjoy your Monday. Thank you.